So in this first video, I'm just going to show you how to multiply tenths times tenths using a base 10 model as we see here. Okay, so the first problem we're going to do is 3 tenths times 6 tenths. I'm just going to write that at the top like this. 3 tenths times 6 tenths. And so right away, we just need to start thinking about what our answer is going to be in. And so one way that I like to think about that is just use of instead of the multiplication sign. So this equation would read, or this expression would read as 3 tenths of 6 tenths. So if we think about that, we're doing tenths of tenths. So our answer is going to be in hundredths, and we will prove that with our model. So we're going to put the 3 tenths on this side, and I'm going to put the times there, and then 6 tenths down here. So to show how I get my answer, I'm going to shade 3 tenths vertically. So when I do this, I just try to picture the vertical lines and not the horizontal lines. So in my mind, I just think of 3 vertical columns. And so that's what I'm going to shade. So 1, 2, 3. And so that's 3 tenths. Okay. And now I'm going to do 6 tenths horizontally along the bottom. And I'm going to do that in a different color. And I would suggest that you do that as well with colored pencils or crayons, or even if you're using Cami, you can do different color highlighters. So now I'm going to do 6 tenths horizontally. And again, I'm just in my mind picturing those rows. I'm kind of trying not to visualize those columns. So I'm going to say 6 tenths. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So there's my model, but how do I know what my product is? So again, like I said, we're taking 3 tenths of 6 tenths. And so we can figure out what that is by counting the overlap. And so each little piece of this is 1/100th. It takes 100 of those to make the whole thing. So when we count these, we can count 100th, 200th, 300ths, 400th, 500th, 600ths, 700ths, 800ths, 900ths, 10 hundredths, 11 hundredths, 12 hundredths, 13 hundredths, 14 hundredths, 15 hundredths, 16 hundredths, 17 hundredths, and 18 hundredths. So our final product is 18 hundredths. And of course, we're going to write that like this. And again, we can take note that tenths times tenths, our product will be in hundredths. And also we have 1 digit after the decimal here, 1 digit after the decimal here. So our product is going to have 2 digits after the decimal. So that's the first example of tenths times tenths using base 10. And so I'm going to do another example problem with you. And this time we're going to do 8 tenths times 5 tenths. And so I'm going to go write my factors at the top. 8 tenths times 5 tenths. Okay. And so I'm going to write my first factor along the side. So like I said, you're just kind of thinking about when you were in 3rd grade and did your arrays. This is very similar. So 8 tenths this way, 5 tenths this way. And so I'm going to shade 8 columns or 8 vertical. So like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so that's 8 columns. And now I'm going to shade 5 rows horizontally. I'm going to shade those in blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so where these colors overlap, again, that's where we will find our product. And so I'm going to actually take another color since there's a lot of it overlapped, and just kind of maybe draw a box out like this so I can see. Okay, so there's where my answer is. And so I'm kind of going to think of this like an array. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, I know there's 40 squares colored in with both colors. So 40 squares, but what is each square worth? A hundredth. So there are 40 hundredths. Okay, so 40 hundredths is our product. And we would write 40 hundredths like this. Well, what do we notice about that? So 40 hundredths is equivalent to 4 tenths. 4 tenths. So we could also write it like this because we can drop that last zero. And so that's just another example of how to multiply tenths times tenths to get your answer with a base 10 model. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to use area models to solve multiplication problems with decimals.